Hello. My name is Crowbeak, also Lena, and inspired by Heather Alexandra's Let's Remember Skies of Arcadia series, I am starting a... Whoops. That's me leaving my Twitch channel on in the background. Series in which she not only plays Skies of Arcadia, but talks about why she thinks it's important. I kind of want to take a critical look, like do a critical sort of let's play of Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X is one of my favorite games. This is the fourth time I've bought it, third time in English, and I bought it in Japanese once. I first bought it when it came out on the PlayStation 2, and these graphics, not exactly these graphics, since this is the updated version, but the graphics then were the coolest thing ever, and I had really crazy Final Fantasy fever. I had just gotten a PlayStation 2 just in time for this game to come out, finally, because up to that point they'd been really hard to get. And, yeah, after that, I was far enough along in my Japanese studies to kind of understand that the game was really well localized. Like, it sounded completely natural in English, unlike, well, not completely natural, some of the things were not as natural, but for the most part, the dialogue was written in such a way that it seemed natural in English, more so than a lot of the animes I was watching. And so when I went on exchange to Japan, I got the Japanese version, and was very happy to discover that I'd been right, that they had changed a lot of things to make it more natural for English. Then when I got back to the States, I ended up lending a co-worker my copy of Final Fantasy X, and then she died in an accident, and I was not about to bother her family to get it back, so I bought myself a new copy. And now this Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD remaster, and I haven't gotten to trying the X-2 remaster yet because I'm playing through Final Fantasy X, but yeah, this is one of my favorite games, and I don't even think it's the best. Like, objectively, I don't think it's the best Final Fantasy game in the series, but there are a lot of things that it does really well, particularly with its storytelling. And that took just about as long as that intro movie, so here we go, I guess. Start a new game. That intro is... I'll just use the standard sphere grid, I guess. No, I won't. I'm having too much fun playing with the advanced sphere grid. The arranged. Yes. Oh, what was I saying? Oh, we get to watch it again. Cool, because that's what I was going to talk about. This video is really interesting. Video section scene thing is really interesting. They've all got their weapons there in a fire. They don't exactly look hopeful. They're not talking, there's no joviality, they're just sitting around this fire. Right. And our main character here gets up and wanders off on his own. And what you don't know at the beginning here, when you're watching this for the first time, there's going to be spoilers, by the way, as I talk about this. But one thing you don't know as you're, watching this the first time is that this is actually like halfway or maybe 2/3 of the way through the main story, this scene. You'll get to this scene again and you'll see it again, and from there the tone changes, the tone of the game changes slightly, and not just because they're clearly in the middle of a not their best moment here, but because up to that point, up until you get to this scene again, the main character is telling you the story, basically. You're playing through it, but you occasionally, at certain scenes, get these comments where he is talking about everything going on retrospectively. Once you get back to this scene later in the game, that stops. You no longer have the retrospective perspective on it. That rhymed in a way I didn't intend. You no longer have that retrospective commentary going on because you've caught up to the story. You're now actually going along with the character.
This may be our last chance.
God, that's pretty. I love what they did with the textures in this new version. him talking about listening to the story and this being our last chance. Another thing that's going to come up here in a bit is him saying that this is his story. And that is, I mean, that one line, "This is my story," to me, kind of captures the whole game, which I'll talk about more much later on. Now we're back at the beginning. Lots of people everywhere, catching music. The color is different too. Like, you've got this nighttime, starry skies, lots of blue, cool color lights going on. It's kind of setting a different tone than before. And then along comes this kid who just kind of fades in and out. You find out who he is later, which is really neat. But until then, he's just kind of creepy. And then here we've got our main character. And at any time now, waving to this crowd of people who are like fans. It's a completely different situation than what you saw in the first scene. And so, like, even before you get to where that scene comes back into play, you get a completely different sense of like a sense that that world and this world.
Can you sign this?
That was more literal than I intended to be. Name my character. Tidus is fine. Confirm. Yes.
Please.
All
Right, there's definitely going to be some changes that go on in this character's life between now and the situation where you see everyone sitting around a fire, depressed. If you talk to these people, they're all clearly fans.
Can I have your autograph?
And he's signing these weird balls. I don't know why the Blitz balls have those bumps.
Good luck tonight.
Seems like it would make them harder to use.
Nothing to worry about. Oh, if I score a goal, I'll...
He is such a player.
Do this. That will mean
like,
it was
this
for
whole
you,
section
okay?
is a setup for this character.
What seat?
He's blocking the front
Because here you see him, he's famous, he's got his fans, he's signing Blitz balls.
Got it.
He's flirting with the girl fans and stuff like that. And
Well, gotta go.
he's got a lot going for him. Right?
2, 3.
Famous sports guy.
Just had a blitz.
Hey, I got a game to play.
This all leads into how
Teach us
arrogant
after.
he is at the
Maybe
beginning.
tonight?
Um,
well,
You can't tonight.
Creepy kid.
I mean tomorrow.
Promise?
Promise.
This is actually more important than you might think. The kid's doing this weird thing here, which you find out about sooner than later. I say find out about. You see it in a different light sooner than later. Once he actually gets whisked away to Spira, to the other world, a different time. I don't want to get too spoilery right up front, I guess, just in case someone's watching this for the first time. Here's another important moment. This billboard. This guy, now it's kind of interesting that there's this big billboard picture with him on it at all, because he's been gone for like 10 years, right?
I was in a coffee shop running away
disappeared.
from home when I heard the news. Our hero, Jecht, gone, vanished
Boom.
into thin air.
Apparently everyone loved him so much that
My
he's
dad
still
must
on
have been his
billboards.
biggest fan. I knew how sad he'd be. Heck, we all were that day. Zanar, I says to myself, what are you thinking? I went running straight back home. We sat up much. Whoa. Didn't mean to reminisce, folks.
That's an interesting spot too, and I actually just blew right through it, didn't I? Well, anyway, it's kind of
Make
interesting
way,
that you've
make
got
way.
this sort of
Coming through, sorry.
radio thing going on there.
Hey,
Hordes of
I'm
fans
gonna
blocking
be
his
late.
path. I love this. More about how famous
let
he is.
go of me.
But that radio over, that's the only place in the game where you've got that kind of radio overlay where someone's talking over the gameplay who isn't Tidus. And it's just to set up the fact that Jecht was well loved and now he's well loved. And I don't think it's been said yet that Jecht is this guy's father, but he is. Now I'm going to take a moment and talk about this scene while it's going on. It has some really rockin' music. And I actually played the demo of Final Fantasy X before it came out. I bought a magazine just to get it. I think it was PC. No, it couldn't have been PC Gamer. was not a PC game. I don't remember. It might have been PlayStation Magazine or something. Some magazine that I never read. I just bought this one issue because it had the demo in it. And the demo was actually just the beginning of the game. Which I think is honestly a really good way to do the demo for this one. It basically just went from that beginning startup scene past this to the end of this segment that happens here in Xanarkand, and ends once the next part of the story begins. Once Orin takes Tidus into what I'm going to call modern day Sphera instead of this Xanarkand here. But this was, watching this the first time, this was where you got to see. I mean, this was back when game engines weren't capable of the real-time cutscenes that are the standard today, and so they were still doing these pre-rendered cutscenes. But this was still just, I mean, it was like Square knocked graphics out of the park again. They have always been kind of on top of good graphics, and this was no exception. Oh, hey Zeal. Cool. I've actually got someone watching. I didn't notice. I love this song. It doesn't really match the rest of the game in some ways, I guess, but that kind of makes sense too, because once you leave this part of the game and get into the rest of the game, everything's changed anyway. This is amazing. Like, I just want to say that this whole scene also sets up how awesome Blitzball is. You've got this sphere of water floating in the air, and people can get knocked out of it, and people can jump out of the top of it, and do cool flips like he was trying to do before Sin attacks. But, right, so you've got 3D movement in all directions, like a ball game that's actually in 3D movement. And there's this question about how exactly they're holding their breath for that long while exerting themselves the way they are. But, you know, whatever. They've got floating water sphere that just broke and everything fell anyway. So, whatever, I guess. But that makes, like, later on in the game when you get Blitzball mini-games, I was really excited for that to happen when I played the game the first time, and then when I actually got to play Blitzball, I was very, very disappointed. Though at this point I still don't like the Blitzball minigame as a minigame, because it's basically just soccer with awkward swimming animations.
What are you doing?
But I think Blitzball has a very important part as an element of the game. Which I didn't actually realize until recently. I started playing this again, and got partway into it, got to Kilika, and then decided, you know what, I wanna share this with people. So I am. Now we're going back. Creepy kid. Everything freezes. Let's make him more creepy. And it's kind of interesting because looking at this game from the perspective of having played it before, that shot of the kid's back makes it extremely clear who this kid is.
Don't cry.
There's all kinds of foreshadowing going on here. It's really neat from the perspective of having played the game before.
What the? Huh?
In terms of like a hero's journey type of thing, if you were going to apply the hero's journey to this, this is the point where, and you see this a lot in all kinds of games, JRPGs and otherwise, where hometown is suddenly getting destroyed. Here is the guide taking you out of wherever you're going. So they kind of set the game up looking like it's going to be your normal save the world kind of thing, and in some ways it is. Like, Sin is attacking Sphera. It's this huge problem. It crops up every so often and just causes all kinds of problems. It destroys villages. It can only be taken out for a time, and then it regenerates and becomes a problem again, and the next person has to try to take it out. And so he kind of goes off on this journey to defeat Sin. But although the game has that, it does have that, like, that basic pattern that you see so often in not just games, but in lots of kinds of stories. Like I said before, this is ultimately, I mean, I don't feel like this game is about saving the world. I see it as Tidus's journey to manhood. Right?
A gift from Jet.
My old man?
Oh, that's where you find out that Jex isn't dead.
I hope you know
You have
how
to
use
wonder.
it.
I'll wonder about that later. I hope you know how to use it. How does he know how to use it? He's a sports player. It's a little weird, but whatever. Also,
These
how
ones
is
don't
that
matter.
even a practical
Cut
sword
through.
with a big old hole in the middle and a hook? It looks like something that you would get. Apparently, that's one I can attack. It looks like something that would get stuck on whatever you're attacking. I don't know. Either way, this is the sort of tutorial introduction to the combat system of the game, which the game must have. And this was early
bother
enough
going
that these
after all of them.
in-game tutorials were still, I guess they'd been being done for a while, but I mean, manuals were still pretty robust at the time. So that's one thing that's kind of interesting. These enemies also, like these particular enemies that I'm fighting now, they do show up later in the game. They're not just here. These are kind of a staple of Sin's attacks on anything. So anytime Sin shows up, you get these guys. And they always behave the same way, which is kind of nice. This HD remaster version is a lot more sparkly than the original was, which makes sense. These textures are much more defined. There's a lot of glowingness going on, which is really neat. One thing I also chose for this when I started this up, that you probably saw if you're watching this far, is that I chose
Get out of my
the
town!
arranged
Some can't wait.
soundtrack. They did a use it on the big one. Oh, use it on everything. Alright, that works too. The original sound. Oh, forgot about that. Every character's limit break has something different. Person has something kind of like Tifa. I think that's Waka's overdrive. I was trying to talk about the music. They did, as part of the HD remaster process, they took the music and just they took the music and they just re-recorded it in better fidelity with, I don't know if they actually got an orchestra to record it or if they what's the word? Oh, used just higher quality synths. The redone soundtrack has actually been kind of a controversial part of this. Ooh, I should watch my health instead of talking. Oh, he's only using Demi. It doesn't matter. It's just gonna half my health every time. Maybe not half. But the soundtrack update has been kind of controversial, which I can see. A lot of people are very much attached to the soundtrack, and I won't lie, I am too. That song in the opening movie to Xanarkand is probably one of my favorite songs of all time. The simple piano of it, the melody is really nice, and using it in the opening thing like they did, that's a really interesting tone for the game. But in making higher quality audio, they kind of disrupted the balance of the music, and I guess some people don't find the rearranged music to be to their liking. Like, it didn't come out the way they imagined the original soundtrack sounding like. But I really like it. It's a save point! Yay! Yes, and it was save point, that was